Of course, you could say that about any necktie, so I can't really throw stones. So without further ado, let's see what they won. In June 2003, the plaintiffs Tommy Wiseau and Wiseau Studio LLC released a feature film called The Room. It was a box office flop and received terrible reviews. Entertainment media described the film as a movie that prompts most of its viewers to ask for their money back before even 30 minutes have passed. A sign on the ticket booth where the film was playing read, "No refunds," and contained an excerpt from a review that said, "Watching this film is like getting stabbed in the head." Despite these reviews, or perhaps because of them, the film developed a cult-like status. Tommy Wiseau, who wrote, produced, directed, and starred in The Room, has become somewhat of a celebrity, often attending screenings to promote the film, meet with fans, engage in question and answer sessions, and sell merch. In 2011, Wiseau's co-star and friend Greg Sestero wrote a nonfiction book about the making of The Room called The Disaster Artist: My Life Inside the Room, the Greatest Bad Movie Ever Made. A film adaptation of the book was released in 2017 to broad critical acclaim. Its star, James Franco, who played Tommy Wiseau, received a Golden Globe Award for the Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy. Wiseau was supportive of The Disaster Artist. He provided on-the-record interviews to the author as well as access to the original script of The Room, photographs, and behind-the-scenes production footage. Wiseau entered into licensing agreements with the filmmakers for use of footage from The Room and appeared in The Disaster Artist himself. Another film was also made about The Room, however, which gives rise to this lawsuit. In 2010, the defendant, Richard Harper, became a fan of the film after attending a screening in Ottawa. In 2011, together with his friends and fellow defendants, Fernando Ferrero McGrath and Martin Rachicot, Harper sponsored a screening of The Room in Ottawa, which included an appearance by Wiseau. Harper and his friends hit it off with Wiseau, and after spending time with him in Ottawa and Toronto, and with Wiseau's encouragement, they decided to create a documentary about The Room and its fans. However, not long after, Wiseau said he was no longer interested in participating in it. Over the next few years, Harper, Ferrero McGrath, and Rachicot worked on the documentary, investing their own money and raising money through a crowdfunding website called Kickstarter. The documentary, entitled Roomful of Spoons, was completed in January 2016. It tells Richard Harper's story of his interest in The Room and in Tommy Wiseau, how the film was made and reactions to it. It includes interviews with many members of the cast and crew, fans, film professors, critics, and others. The documentary also addresses questions about how The Room was funded and Wiseau's background, including where he was born and how old he is. Questions raised in The Disaster Artist, but about which Wiseau is secretive. In 2015, Harper had tried to negotiate a license agreement with Wiseau, as the documentary includes many clips of The Room. No agreement was reached, mainly because Wiseau wanted editorial control over Roomful of Spoons, and the defendants decided to proceed without an agreement. Wiseau, even before seeing the documentary, then began a campaign to denounce the documentary, accusing the defendants on social media of copyright infringement and illegal downloading, and sending letters to potential exhibitors of Roomful of Spoons threatening litigation. This resulted in many canceled screenings, including a planned North American tour to 25 cities and to cities in Australia, Poland, and the United Kingdom. Nevertheless, in 2016 and early 2017, the defendants were able to arrange showings of the documentary at some film festivals in North America and Europe, and it received positive reviews. The defendants, who had now been joined in their project by the defendant, Richard Towns, entered into negotiations with a California film distributor, Gravitas Ventures, for a distribution agreement. The defendants also sent a copy of Roomful of Spoons to Wiseau in February 2016 in the hope that any concerns he had about the documentary would be put to rest. Following further correspondence between Wiseau and the defendants in the spring of 2017 and an agreement by the defendants to delay the release of the documentary for 2 weeks in early June 2017, Wiseau commenced this action by bringing an urgent motion ex parte, which means without the opposing party, for an injunction restraining the release and promotion of Roomful of Spoons. Yeah, so that is a typo. It's not Roomful of Spoons, it's Room Full of Spoons. Just in case anybody cares. The injunction was granted by Justice Diamond on June 14th, 2017, and was continued by Justice Justice Akbar on June 27th, 2017, who adjourned the matter to October 10th to allow the defendants time to retain counsel and prepare a response in the action. And on the motion for the injunction, Wiseau asserted and continues to assert that Roomful of Spoons breaches the plaintiff's copyright in the room, including Wiseau's moral rights, which are like his rights to not be to not have his work altered or not have his work displayed in a mocking light or something. Not the same thing as not criticizing it or mocking him, but rather an original. It's more complicated than that, so just let me have that simple definition of it. And that the defendants have unlawfully invaded Wiseau's privacy, that they've misappropriated his personality, and committed the tort of passing off their work as his. Although pleaded and relied on in the injunction proceeding, claims for misrepresentation and breach of contract were simply not pressed at trial. So in other words, they didn't give evidence and testimony in furtherance of those claims. After a hearing on October 10th, 2017, the injunction was dissolved, and on November 11th, Justice Kanan found, among others, that the plaintiffs failed to make a full and fair disclosure to the court on the ex parte motion, that the court was misled, and that on the evidence before him, the test for an injunction was not satisfied. Following an unsuccessful motion for leave to appeal by the plaintiffs, by Wiseau, and after the defendants indicated an intention to bring an anti-SLAPP, or strategic litigation against public participation, lawsuit or motion, so an anti-strategic litigation against public participation. One second. So a SLAPP lawsuit is like, if I don't like what you had to say about me, I assert copyright to what you produced. Let's say it was a news piece or a documentary about Leonard French, and it said some nasty things or something. Maybe I have the barest minimum, or if any, claim of copyright infringement on something. Of course, it's probably a fair use that they are making criticism and commentary about me, but no, I'm going to file a lawsuit to try and stop them, and maybe I have more money than they do, and maybe I can just keep on fighting the lawsuit, and they're just going to eventually have to give up because they don't have a choice. That's a SLAPP suit. That's a strategic lawsuit against public participation. So here, the defendants are going to make a motion against Wiseau's SLAPP suit. The motion pursuant to the the Protection of Public Participation Act. The parties agreed to an early trial date and to filing affidavits which would serve as the direct evidence at trial. I will deal with more detail with many of these steps later in these reasons. In the meantime, because of the injunction and outstanding action, Roomful of Spoons has not been released or shown anywhere since the litigation was commenced. No distribution agreement has been concluded, and the defendants lost the opportunity to release the film while The Disaster Artist was having its successful run in late 2017, which would have created interest or buzz in Roomful of Spoons. The case was tried before me over 2 weeks, commencing January 6, 2020. For the reasons that follow, I dismiss the plaintiff's action in its entirety. Further, I grant judgment in favor of the defendants on their counterclaim, which arises from the improper obtaining of the injunction, for which the plaintiffs agreed to indemnify the defendants as a term of obtaining the injunction. So it's similar in the U.S. Remember, this is a Canadian lawsuit. Similar in the U.S., the plaintiff or the moving party that's asking for an injunction, if they're winning an injunction, they're going to have to post a bond of some kind, money saying, here's money that can go to the defendants or the winning party if we lose the injunction motion, or if we lose the case too. and other wrongful acts taken in this litigation, and to prevent the release of Roomful of Spoons. I award the defendants $550,000 US dollars in general damages and an additional 200,000 Canadian dollars in punitive damages. The Room is a 99-minute-long feature film that was written, produced, and directed by Wiseau. It tells the story of Johnny, a banker, and his fiancée, Lisa, who no longer loves Johnny and is sleeping with Johnny's best friend, Mark. It is a typical love triangle. Wiseau stars in the production in the leading role of Johnny. Sestero plays the other leading role as Mark. There is no evidence, and it remains a mystery, how The Room, which reportedly cost about $6 million to produce, was financed. It remains a mystery how it was paid for. The film is described in promotional materials, such as on the back of the DVD package, as an electrifying American black comedy about love, passion, betrayal, and lies. It's what happens in real life. You could be with your loving woman and all of a sudden, boom, she's in bed with your best friend or family member. Following its release in 2003, The Room played for 2 weeks at a Los Angeles cinema, grossing $1,800. In an entire 2 weeks. Critics panned the film. In addition to the reviews quoted above, the BBC described the film as not just bad, it's intoxicatingly awful. Entertainment Weekly described it as the Citizen Kane of bad movies. The Huffington Post called it a 99-minute train wreck. Over time, however, The Room has developed a cult-like following, and, as the BBC has reported, so has its mysterious creator, Tommy Wiseau. There are monthly viewing parties in at least 60 theaters all over the world. Wiseau often attends these screenings and is treated like a celebrity, signing autographs, posing for photographs, selling The Room, and Wiseau-related merchandise, including T-shirts and Tommy Wiseau underwear.
Nice.
At screenings, fans often come dressed as characters in the film, and they laugh, heckle, and throw things at various times during the film. This is because the film is so bad. Unlike the promotional statement on the DVD that it is a black comedy, reviewers have commented that there are very few jokes in the film. Its production quality is poor, the script and acting are wanting, with plot lines that go nowhere, and there are punishingly long sex scenes. As the BBC put it, The Room is a car crash of incompetence and catastrophic misjudgment. Mystery around Wiseau is also part of the attraction to fans of The Room. Tommy Wiseau, like his character Johnny, has long hair, wears wraparound sunglasses, and speaks English with a strong accent. Again quoting the BBC article, with the luxuriant, suspiciously black mane of Kiss's Gene Simmons and the heavily accented slur of a drunk Count Dracula, Johnny has to be cinema's least convincing banker. However, Wiseau describes himself as a proud American who claims to have grown up in Louisiana and refuses to disclose his age or how he paid for the film.
And yes, in case you're wondering, the judge did have to watch the film because it was entered into evidence.
And I see YouTube has held the punishingly long sex scenes line.
Oh, that was the person that was laughing.
All clear. The defendant, Harper, discovered The Room in 2010 and has attended at least 25 showings of the film. Sorry, you're not even close to the number of times I've watched The Office yet. Wiseau has been present at approximately 12 of these screenings. Harper introduced the film to his childhood friends, Ferrero McGrath and Ratchicott, and in April 2011, they sponsored a screening of The Room, sharing the cost of Wiseau's $1,500 appearance fee with the owner of the Mayfair Theatre in Ottawa, Lee DeMarbre. They got along well with Wiseau during his time in Ottawa, and Wiseau invited Harper and his friends to come to Toronto to help Wiseau with several screenings at the Royal Cinema, where they assisted in selling Wiseau's merchandise. They shared meals with Wiseau, who paid for their travel and accommodation, and unexpectedly gave each of the three defendants $80 in cash as well.
What?
You hang out with Tommy Wiseau, and he's like, hey, kids, here, have some cash. Sure.
Why not?
Okay. While in Toronto, April
Tell me
23rd,
why
2011, Harper raised the idea of
as I
making a
said
documentary
yesterday,
about the room and its fans.
There's
Wiseau
some
was supportive
wiring,
of the
like,
project and
he
agreed
has a
to
lot of
participate
haywire
in
in
it.
his head.
He
Like, a
suggested
lot of
they begin
wirings
filming
are
the
not
documentary
where
at the
they're
upcoming
supposed to be.
screening of The Room at the Ziegfeld Theater in New York City. Harper, Ratchicott, Ferrero McGrath. Why can't we just call him McGrath? Like, why does this one guy have to have a longer name than the others? 2 hired assistants all rented a van and film equipment and drove to New York in June 2011. However, while on their way to New York, Harper received an email from John
nice
on behalf of Wiseau withdrawing the invitation and advising that Wiseau was no longer interested in participating in the documentary. John, who may well be Wiseau using an alias, indicated that Wiseau would not be in New York in any event until the next day. The defendants, having made the time and financial commitments to go to New York, continued with their trip. Upon arriving in New York City, they went to Times Square to obtain B-roll footage, which is like extra footage that you use to fill in and show settings and things like that.
Yeah, we're here. We might as well just get some footage from...
Yeah, I do this with the dogs on our stream. While doing this near the Ziegfeld Theater, Ferrero McGrath noticed Wiseau in a sandwich shop, which was surprising, given the email that said he would not be in the city until the next day. However, when the defendants approached Wiseau, he quickly left the sandwich shop, stating he was very busy. Some of this was caught on camera by Ratchicott and was used in the documentary. While it was asserted that the defendants chased Wiseau, there is no evidence from Wiseau on this point. Harper and Ratchicott strongly denied it in cross-examination, and Ferrero McGrath was not even asked about that encounter. Harper, Ratchicott, and Ferrero McGrath attended the screening of The Room in New York City. They bought their own tickets. They interviewed fans on camera. Some of this footage was also used in the documentary. Over the next 4.5 years, until early 2016, the defendants worked on the documentary and its scope evolved. They interviewed all the actors who played named characters in the film other than Wiseau and Sestero, who refused to participate, and several members of the crew of The Room, including the camera operators, production assistants, the script supervisor, and the composer. The defendants also interviewed fans, including Patient Zero, who discovered The Room and initiated its cult-like following, and film critics and film professors. They also investigated Wiseau's background, including traveling to Europe and tracking down his origins in Poland, interviewing his family there and determining his age. The 4 individual defendants invested approximately $74,000 of their own money in the film and raised $26,000 through Kickstarter, a crowdfunding website, which funds were primarily used to pay for the defendants' travel to Europe to investigate facts about Wiseau's origins. The name of the documentary, Room Full of Spoons, stems from a flaw in the film. There are framed photographs in the living room set where much of the film occurs. However, one of them has a stock photo of a spoon, as it appears no one put an actual photo in the frame. Fans noticed this, and whenever the photo of the spoon appears, fans throw spoons at the screen. Someone mentioned to the defendants that following a showing of The Room, all you are left with is a room full of spoons. And hence the name. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. I'm gripped. We have like 40 pages to go on this. Just 2 days after the defendants' Kickstarter campaign was launched on February 20th, 2015, someone called Rawl, acting for Wiseau, but which may also be an alias for Wiseau, sent emails to Harper demanding that the defendants stop using material from The Room in the documentary and that all references to Wiseau be removed from the Kickstarter campaign. On March 3rd, 2015, Wiseau filed a complaint with Kickstarter alleging that the defendants had stolen footage and were making false statements about Wiseau and his business. The complaint also asserted that the defendants needed permission to use any footage filmed at screenings. As a result of the complaint, Kickstarter removed the trailer for the documentary from the campaign, which reduced the number of pledges received by the defendants. Harper spoke to Wiseau on the phone on March 3rd, 2015, proposing that they negotiate a license agreement. The parties exchanged email correspondence and a draft license agreement the next day. However, Wiseau demanded a large sum for each clip of the room used in the documentary, and the draft agreement prepared by him provided that he would have final approval of the documentary, which required that the film be focused on the fans, rather than on the room or Wiseau. These terms were unacceptable to the defendants, and Harper advised Wiseau that while they had no difficulty allowing him to view the film before the public release so that he could raise any concerns, they were not willing to agree to give up final cut privileges to him. Wiseau reacted, beginning in April 2015 and continuing until February 2016 by posting a 3-part series called Shame on You on YouTube and his website. He also caused the series to be aired before theater screenings of The Room. Although somewhat difficult to follow from the material before me, the Shame on You series was an attack on the defendants and their making of the documentary, and alleged that the defendants were violating copyright laws and committing other wrongs. Terms used in the campaign included stealing, illegal downloading, and fraud. However, the campaign did not appear to name the individual defendants or otherwise identify them other than through the name of the documentary, Roomful of Spoons. During this period, Wiseau, through Rawl, continued to demand payment for the use of the clips from The Room in the documentary. He also demanded the defendants not use his name and that promotional posters be changed. He asserted copyright and trademark infringements. Wiseau complained that Harper and his colleagues were being very disrespectful and that their research was going in the wrong direction. The documentary was completed in January 2016. Roomful of Spoons is 109 minutes long. It contains a total of about 7 minutes of clips from The Room, all of which are short and used in conjunction with commentary, or are the subject of commentary directly afterwards, often introduced by an interviewee or the narrator. One of the plaintiff's witnesses, documentary filmmaker Cynthian Sharp, Cynthian, what a cool name, testified that the story arc of the documentary has 3 themes. 1, the experience and culture surrounding The Room and its fans. 2, the making of The Room as experienced by those involved. And 3, information about the mysterious Tommy Wiseau. Harper summarizes the documentary as an in-depth commentary about the cult-like phenomenon of The Room and its creator, Tommy Wiseau. Having watched the documentary and The Room, I, the judge, find the descriptions of it by Sharp and Harper above to be apt. Further, rather than seeking to replace the experience of The Room, Roomful of Spoons studies and celebrates the phenomenon and the community that has grown up around it. The documentary complements the original work, which would explain why several theaters and film festivals have sought to host double feature screenings. Oh, that's cool. So you go and watch The Room and then watch Roomful of Spoons. That's really cool. On February 23rd, 2016, Harper provided Wiseau with a courtesy copy of Roomful of Spoons. Wiseau, through Rawl, had numerous objections to the documentary. These included the references to his origins, original name, and birth date, which he did not dispute as inaccurate, the amount of time devoted to his family in Poland, reference to a California civil court action against him for fraud, and claims by Sandy Schleier, credited as a script supervisor of The Room, that he actually directed 90% of the film.
Wiseau, weird names in this lawsuit, aren't they?
Yeah, right. Wiseau complained that the documentary was too negative and said that it could be framed with more positivity by at least 60%. 60%. He asked that there be, at the end, that it say something upbeat and positive. In addition, he noted that there were over 65 clips from The Room and Wiseau Films' original material, including over 24 pictures. Wiseau suggested that if they addressed his objections, he might approve other clips. The defendants reminded Rawl that they had sought to have a license agreement, but in any event took the position that the clips are covered under fair use. Even before the documentary was completed, theaters in the UK and Canada had asked to screen it. In 2016 and 2017, Roomful of Spoons was screened at 10 film festivals in Europe and North America. This was intended to promote the film in order to obtain a distributor. It was well received. The Huffington Post, in an article that provides a good summary of The Room, the phenomenon it has created, and the documentary, describes Roomful of Spoons as follows. Along with capturing the excitement and joy the movie has brought to those fans all over the world, Harper's documentary solves a long list of mysteries fans have wondered about The Room for years. It is a very impressive feat of reporting. Ottawa Life magazine referred to the documentary as an encyclopedic reference guide to everything a fan of the film would want to know. The lead actress in The Room, Juliette Danielle, who plays Lisa, described the purpose of the documentary as a love letter to The Room, saying the team had done their homework and talked to everyone involved in the project. Nonetheless, Wiseau, or Rawl on his behalf, escalated his attack on the defendants after the festival screenings. Even before obtaining a copy of Roomful of Spoons, Wiseau sent emails to exhibitors and potential distributors of the film, alleging copyright infringement and illegal downloading of The Room, demanding that the film not be shown, and demanding that Wiseau's image or references to The Room not be used in promoting Roomful of Spoons. In cross-examination, Harper confirmed much of this campaign by Wiseau, as he saw many of these emails and was told by several programmers that if they screened the documentary, Wiseau would not let them screen The Room at their theaters. Indeed, the record contains an excerpt from The Guardian reporting that Wiseau had threatened legal action in Australia, stating, "World's worst filmmaker forces Sydney Underground Film Festival to cancel its screening of documentary about cult film." So as we go, I saw some questions about how in the world this got up to $700,000 in damages. That's why. They had a successful documentary, and he managed to shut it down. Although Harper made further efforts to negotiate a resolution, Wiseau escalated matters, retaining counsel in California and in Ontario, sending cease and desist letters, making additional demands to change the documentary. The defendants accepted many of his demands for changes in an attempt to avoid a dispute, but Wiseau continued to make additional demands. As subsequent events confirmed, Wiseau did whatever he could to stop the release of the documentary. As a result of Wiseau's threat to potential exhibitors, a planned tour of 25 North American cities and screenings scheduled in Australia, Poland, and the United Kingdom in 2016 and 2017 were cancelled. Several cinemas in Canada and the UK had proposed doing double features of The Room and Roomful of Spoons, but these did not go ahead either. The defendants incurred significant expenses and effort in arranging these screenings and accompanying media opportunities, all of which were lost. In 2017, the defendants were in discussions with Gravitas Ventures to complete a distribution agreement. As witnesses for the plaintiffs agreed, Gravitas is a respected independent film distributor in California, which had offered the defendants a distribution agreement for a term of 15 years, covering the United States and Canada. Gravitas was one of a number of distributors to reach out to the defendants and expressed excitement at the prospect of releasing it around the time of The Disaster Artist in late 2017. The uncontradicted evidence of the defendants is that the agreement was not concluded with Gravitas due to the legal steps taken by Wiseau in June 2017 discussed below. Harper and Ferrero-McGrath both were cross-examined on this issue and confirmed that a deal with Gravitas would have been signed if Wiseau had not sued them. In April and May of 2017, the defendants engaged in further discussions with Wiseau's lawyers at Bearskin and Parr LLP, a well-known intellectual property law firm in Toronto. The defendants made a number of additional... Let me just back up for a second and comment. It's a Canadian law firm named Bearskin. Come on, that's pretty awesome. The defendants made a number of additional changes to the film in response to Wiseau's demands. Also, at Wiseau's request, the defendants removed images and videos of Wiseau on social media and advertisements for Roomful of Spoons in an effort to reach a resolution. Although Wiseau complained that the promotional material suggested that he endorsed the documentary, in fact, the defendants' materials made it clear this was not the case. They described the film in the trailer as the documentary Mr. Wiseau does not want you to see. Didn't we have a case we did a couple years ago where they said it's not this, like, you know, it's everything that you want, but it's not that. So then when they got sued for trademark infringement, the infringing party can say, hey, we literally said the words, it's not that.
All sesame, no street.
All Sesame, no street. That's what it was. It was the anti-Sesame Street musical or whatever, right? Or movie or something.
Happy Time Murders, I think.
The Happy Time Murders, right? The movie. Right, I'm confused with Avenue Q. Roomful of Spoons was to be released on June 1st, 2017. However, on May 19th, Wiseau's Ontario lawyers threatened to bring an injunction application unless the release was postponed by 2 weeks, which was agreed to by the defendants as a gesture of good faith in order to continue to pursue a settlement of Wiseau's complaints. The defendants' social media platforms promoting the documentary, developed at considerable expense on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, confirmed that the release was pushed back to June 15th, 2017. Rather than negotiating, however, the plaintiffs used the delay to prepare a surprise injunction application. On June 14, 2017, Wiseau's lawyers brought a motion to this court without notice in Toronto, seeking an injunction to prevent the release of Roomful of Spoons. As Justice Kanan explained in his subsequent decision lifting the injunction, Bearskin and Parr gave a couple hours' notice to a lawyer in Ottawa who had acted as a corporate solicitor for the defendants in the past. That lawyer could not accept service, and the motion on June 14th proceeded as an ex parte motion. Justice Diamond granted the injunction and directed that the matter be addressed in court again on June 23rd. On that date, some of the defendants appeared, but they had not had the opportunity to retain counsel and sought an adjournment to do so and to file materials. Justice Akbar Ali therefore set a return, I'm just going to call him Justice Akbar, therefore set a return date of October 10th, 2017 to argue the matter, and the interim injunction continued until
hey guys,
then.
What's up, Mad Season here.
While the injunction was in effect, another...
In AQ40, there's a boss named Vicitus who drops a pretty expensive pet. It's called the Vicitus Globule, and right now it's selling for an average price of around 13,000 gold across all US servers. And the reason for that is because killing Vicitus isn't really straightforward, so most people give up. To be able to kill him, you have to first hit him with around 20 frost attacks to freeze him, and then hit him with around 25 physical attacks to shatter him before he unfreezes. For the shattering phase, you only have 30 seconds, and for a lot of classes that's a really tough time window. So because of all of this, most people just give up, and as a result the pet he drops is really lucrative. So in this video, I'll show you how to kill him for all 12 classes during the Legion expansion. Note that while the title does say level 110, it's not entirely necessary to be that high. A lot of these classes I did at level 100, so it's not a strict requirement. Also, if you're just looking for a specific class, check the description because I'll have some timestamps set up for you. Before you do so though, you may want to listen a little while longer because I have some general information that's needed for every class. So for the freezing phase, obviously some classes don't have frost spells. To get around this, we're going to be using the Elemental Force enchant. This one has a random elemental damage proc, one of them being Frost. So it's a nice way to get that freeze in. There are other enchants such as Death Frost, but I prefer Elemental Force because in general it's way cheaper and it's more common on the auction house. And of course for the shattering phase, speed is a top priority. There are 3 weapons that I have as my go-to. If you can equip daggers, go for the simple dagger. It has a speed of 1.6 and you can buy it from most general good vendors in the game, and even from the Traveler's Mammoth if you have it. If you can't equip daggers but you can equip swords, pick up the Grass Cutter. This is sold by Valadin Silverblade, located in the shop at coordinates 5463 in both the Broken Isles and Northrend Dallarans. Once again, it has a pretty fast speed of 1.6 and it's pretty convenient to get. And lastly, if you can only equip 2-handers, pick up the 2.1 speed Dallaran Greatsword from the same merchant. You can get faster weapons, but I like these because they're easy to get. You don't need to go to a raid or anything like that. So some classes will have a tougher time with the shattering phase, particularly casters. So some of you will need external pet summoning trinkets. I do have some suggestions for you, and they're all in Pandaria. The best one is going to be the Crate of Kidnapped Puppies. This drops from a rare mob named Borgrin Darkfist, located at coordinates 5643 in the Kunlai Summit. And another option is the Terracotta Fragment, dropped by a rare mob John Dar, located at 1978 in the Valley of the Four Winds. Option 3 is the Dynasty of Steel, dropped by Nalak the Ripper, who patrols around coordinates 1053 of the same zone. And another option is Martar's Magnifying Glass, dropped by Martar the Not-So-Smart, who patrols around coordinates 5633 in the Jade Forest. Now, these mobs are pretty heavily camped, at least on my server. I've had the best luck with Martar, and I think that's mainly because he doesn't show up on the minimap. Any of them will work, but the best one is the Crate of Puppies, so if you can get that, that would be ideal. Anyways, now that we got all of the preliminary stuff out of the way, let's get to the actual guide. You can find AQ40 at coordinates 2488 in Silithus. And to get there, take the Caverns of Time portal. In the Broken Isles Dallaran, this is located in the middle area with all of the other portals. And in the Northrend Dallaran, it's in the Violet Citadel. And from there you just fly on over. Vicitus himself is located fairly deep within the instance. He's the optional boss right after Fangchris the Unyielding. The path leading to him is on the eastern side of his room. So, class number 1 on our list is the Paladin. For this you want to be protection spec, and before you head out, pick up a grass cutter and throw elemental force on it, and pick up one of those trinkets I listed earlier. In my case, I have the terracotta fragment, and you're also going to want to have the consecrated hammer talent, and the main ability you'll be using is the hammer of the righteous. For the freezing phase, just spam this, and do the same for the shattering phase. As soon as he freezes, make sure you use your terracotta fragment or whatever trinket you picked up, and then keep spamming hammer. If you do it correctly, you should beat the 30-second timer pretty easily. Next up we have the shaman. Go enhancement spec for this one and pick up 2 simple daggers. Shamans have a pretty versatile kit, so no enchants nor trinkets are needed. For the freezing phase, you'll be using Frostbrand with the Hailstorm talent, and for the shatter phase, you want to use Feral Spirit and Rockbiter. So keep using Frostbrand until he freezes, and when he does, pop your Feral Spirit and Rockbiter spam. You can also throw in a Heroism, although it's not needed by any means. Next up, we have the Monk in the Windwalker spec. Before you head out, pick up dual grass cutters with elemental force on one of them, and no trinket is needed. For abilities, you'll be using Jab, Spinning Crane Kick, and the Storm, Earth, and Fire cooldown. For the freezing phase, just spam Jab and use Spinning Crane Kick when you cap out on Chi, but make sure that you have some saved up for when he freezes. When he does freeze, pop Storm, Earth, and Fire, and then just Jab spam and Spinning Crane Kick, and he should shatter pretty quickly. Next up, we have the Warrior. My preferred spec is Fury. Before you head out, pick up dual simple daggers and throw elemental force on your main hand. And for abilities, we just have Whirlwind. It's pretty brainless. For both the freezing and shattering phases, just spam Whirlwind. That's pretty much all you need for the whole fight as long as you're Fury spec. For the Hunter, my preferred spec is Beast Mastery, and that's so we can tame an exotic pet that has a frost attack. So for this fight, we'll need a Chimera. You can find them at coordinates 5924 in Winterspring in the northern end of Kalimdor. And the reason we want them is for their Froststorm Breath ability, which as I mentioned earlier deals frost damage for the freezing phase. Before you head in though, also make sure you pick up the Stampede and Barrage talents because you'll need them. So for the freezing phase, just use that Froststorm Breath, and as soon as he freezes, pop Stampede and Barrage and he should shatter fairly quickly. And that's it, no enchants nor trinkets needed for the Hunter. For the Priest though, we do need one of the trinkets that I listed earlier. In my case, I picked up Martar's Magnifying Glass. And also for the freezing phase, make sure you pick up the Mind Spike talent because it deals Shadow Frost damage, which does work. And you'll also want Power Infusion for the added haste, and make sure you don't take the Mindbender talent because we'll need Shadow Fiend as well. And also pick up a simple dagger just for the speed. So for the freezing phase, just spam Mind Spike, and as soon as he freezes, you want to use whichever pet trinket you have, Shadow Fiend, cast Power Infusion on yourself, and auto-attack him. The timing is really tight on this one, so you gotta be really fast as soon as he freezes. This is one of the classes I recommend picking up the Crate of Kidnapped Puppies just because it's so close, but as you can see, you can do it without it. Next up we have the Rogue, and for this I prefer the Outlaw spec. Pick up 2 simple daggers, and for the freezing phase, pick up an Elemental Force enchant. For talents, make sure you grab Slice and Dice and Killing Spree, and for noteworthy abilities, we'll be needing Saber Slash. For the freezing phase, just Saber Slash spam and make sure you have Slice and Dice up, then as soon as he freezes, pop Killing Spree and then continue with the Saber Slash. Once again, making sure that you have Slice and Dice up the entire time. Next up, we have the Havoc Demon Hunter. Pick up 2 simple daggers and throw Elemental Force on one of them. For abilities, you'll be using
everybody, thrilled to have you here for another Flat Earth debate, and we're starting right now.
Oh no. Why?
Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. This is going to be a fun one, folks. We are thrilled to let you know we have two experienced debaters here tonight, and it's on the good old flat earth topic. Want to let you know, though, if it's your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we have many more debates coming up. So, for example, you'll see at the bottom right of your screen, in less than 2 weeks, Matt Dillahunty and Tom Jump will be facing off against Dr. Randall Rouser and Samuel Nassan. So it should be a really fun one on whether or not there's sufficient reason to believe in God. So, with that, though, want to let you know we're a neutral platform. In other words, we only have the debaters on in terms of we don't ourselves make any statements as a channel. We don't have any sort of follow-up videos saying who won or lost. We just completely leave it up to you folks to decide who is more persuasive, and also only leave it up to the debaters in terms of making their case. So we are very excited to have you here no matter what walk of life you come from. And now let's talk about the format for tonight's debate. It's going to be Wits It Gets It opening it up first, and that'll be kind of a flexible 5 to 10 minute opening statement. And then Richard, depending on whether or not he would like, whether or not Vegan Gains would like to do his opening, that's up to him. He may just want to jump right into open conversation, in which case we'll go right into open conversation and then have Q&A at the end. So if you happen to have any questions, feel free to fire that question into the old live chat. And if you tag me with @ModernDayDebate, I can be sure that every single question from the Modern Day Debate live chat will be added to the Q&A list. Super chat is also an option, in which case you can also make a comment during the question and answer. And, of course, the speakers will get a chance to respond to it, as well as it'll push your question or comment to the top of the list for the Q&A. With that, very excited to have these guys here. I want to give a huge thanks. It's good to have you guys. It's a true pleasure. And so thank you very much, both Vegan Gains and Wits It Gets It. We appreciate you guys hanging out here. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for being here with us.
No problem. Glad to be here, man.
Absolutely. So with that, I will hand it over to Wits It Gets It, but do want to mention one last thing before we do get started. In particular, both of these gentlemen are linked in the description. So that way, if you're listening, you're like, I like that. I want to hear more. You can hear more. That's why I put these guys' links in the description just for you. So with that, Wits It Gets It. The floor is all yours. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. All right, so I guess I'll just lay this out in hopes to save some time. Typically, what globe earthers do is they want to
Oh my God.
with some
He does not
model
only look
so
like
that they
Nathan
can try and
Thompson,
figure out what's wrong with it. The issue with that
he
is we
also
make a
sounds
general,
like him, and he talks the
surface
same
claim
bullshit, of
being
course.
a descriptor of the surface being flat. We don't claim a definitive model, or I certainly do not. We don't have access to all the information required to formulate a definitive model. But of course, as it is known in intellectual forum, when you make a positive claim, you have the burden of proof. And my only positive claim is a general descriptor of the surface of the Earth being flat. The globe Earth is a positive claim of specificity. It claims axial rotation, right? 1,040 miles per hour east, spinning at the equator, a circumference, a radius. It claims a orbital trajectory, heliocentrism, a plethora of very specific claims that come with the globe Earth. Thus, they have the burden of proof. So simply, all globe earthers typically do is they shift the burden of proof, which is a fallacy, and then they attack a straw man model, which is a fallacy, right? So
That's actually
really,
exactly what you're doing right now.
claim of the globular
Fucking idiot.
heliocentric Earth is independent of me giving you a definitive model. And I think that will save us some time. Hopefully, it usually doesn't, even with that preface. But that is not really like a debatable thing. It's just intellectual forum. You make a positive claim of specificity, you have the burden of proof of specificity.
He actually
So we're looking
sounded
for
kind
proof
of
that the Earth is
sane
globe
for
that's
the
spinning
first minute.
in, you know, this magic cartoon medium that defies natural law. And we have to find out, been looking for 5 years, it doesn't exist. Now, people don't normally think like this. They assume everyone knows the Earth's a globe, so, you know, I just have to prove it's not flat or something. But when you make a positive claim, you have a burden of proof. Simply, I've been looking for 5 years. There is no empirical, verifiable evidence that the Earth is a globe. Literally. And yeah, we have dozens and dozens of observations that demonstrate the curvature rate being falsified. So that's really the preface. You have to get into any intricacies beyond that, but just to kind of like preemptively point that out, like be on the lookout for the typical fallacious reasoning that comes from globe zealots, and that is reification fallacies, strawman fallacies, shifting the burden of proof fallacies, begging the question fallacies, and this is what we'll hear a lot, but it's typically not even intentional, but hopefully that will be a beneficial preface, and yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Thanks.
good. Okay, so that actually makes things a bit simpler. Now, you said that you're just making a simple claim that the Earth is flat. You're not trying to create any kind of specific model that I can try and pick apart. Well, look, I think you do have a model for what is most likely, the shape of the Earth, how the countries are laid out. Like, you wouldn't believe that, like, let's say, there's two sides of the flat Earth, and some countries are one side and some countries are on the other side, right?
Well, sure, yeah, you just made up some random crazy far-fetched model. Of course I don't adhere to that. That doesn't
Okay,
actually
so
happen.
right. So there's only basically one real side of the flat Earth where, Earth's inhabitants are on, like all the major countries.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and do you also believe that at any one time half of the Earth is illuminated by the sun?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you do have like a basic model.
Well, I know that not the entire Earth is lit up by the sun at the same time.
Sure.
It moves in the sky over top of us, and we have seasons in a day and night cycle. I don't claim a proportionate landmass layout. I don't claim a definitive model. I don't know the entirety of what Earth is. It's just the intellectually honest position to take. The falsification of the globe Earth is independent of me having all the answers to information that's given.
Okay, well, fair enough, but I mean, don't you think that immediately creates an issue where if half of the Earth's surface is illuminated, but the sun is constantly in a position where it could illuminate the entire planet?
What is? Well, first of all, you just presupposed a planet, and secondly, why are you assuming that?
Well, you're just playing
semantics.
word.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you assume it would light up the whole Earth?
Well, because it's over top, right? So, well, I think I know where you're getting with this, where light can't travel infinitely.
It's called attenuation.
Okay, well, the problem here is, if half of the Earth's surface is illuminated, then it doesn't make any sense to say that light has a finite distance it can travel, because at the middle point of the flat Earth, light will just suddenly abruptly stop, but at the end point, it'll also just suddenly abruptly stop when is there a way to like actually screen share just so I can
Yes.
So how do I screen share? Just so it's easier for me to get a visual.
You bet. On the bottom of your Zoom window, there's usually a green button, and it'll have
Oh,
like
share screen. Okay, cool. Alright, I'll share screen here. So let me just try to get this. Right, so this is basically... Are you guys seeing this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically the model essentially that you're supposing, right? Like
No.
it doesn't necessarily look exactly like this.
We're
but
not a
I mean,
disk in space. Not one flat earther actually thinks that. So,
That's a
okay,
lie.
so we're not a disc. What's the shape?
we're not a disk in space.
There is
just
for
like,
flat earthers that think
next
that.
to some spherical planets, and we're just a disk in space or accelerating disk, anything like that. We're basically the basement. Like everything revolves over top of us. No one thinks we're some disk out in some infinite universe.
That's not true. There's people that
So,
think
That's
that.
the first issue. In fact, I already answered this question. It's called attenuation.
Okay,
So-
well, regardless, let's say it's not a disc. You are saying the Earth is flat, and you are saying the sun is over top of the Earth, correct?
That's correct.
And it's over top of the Earth constantly, like it never dips below.
That's correct.
Okay, so right, then you have an issue here because, look, if we're gonna have a cutoff point right here, like half the Earth is illuminated at any one time, well, the distance between here to here is shorter than the distance between the edge to the sun. So you're just making an arbitrary cutoff point, like you're saying light can only travel a finite distance. Well, if it can only travel a finite distance, then you wouldn't have half of the Earth illuminated at any one time. So
Do you know what attenuation is?
Well, explain it to me.
Attenuation is an extinction limit of light. Atmospheric extinction. It's called attenuation. This is scientifically known. So yeah, light has an attenuation rate. So it has an extinction limit due to, atmospheric extinction, i.e. attenuation. Very simple. So yeah, of course, the sun's light only goes so far. It's called attenuation.
It's called perspective. Also bullshit.
Okay, it gave me like a totally different window and it's like white. It's weird. Sure, if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, okay, I didn't hear I didn't hear an explanation that satisfied me. Like, again, if you're going to claim that half the Earth is illuminated at any one time... Look, if you're going to claim that half of the Earth is illuminated at any one time, then you're going to have to explain how half of the Earth would be illuminated, but you're going to say that light has a finite distance in which it just stops.
Are you disputing attenuation? Because this is scientifically known and accepted. Atmospheric extinction.
Wait. So you're saying that the atmosphere is what makes light just suddenly stop?
It doesn't suddenly stop. It's gradual dissipation. It has an attenuation rate.
Okay, and you're saying that attenuation rate is different in the middle of the Earth rather than towards the sides or edges?
No, why would that? Well, why would you say that?
Well, it would have to.
Do
again,
basic
half of the Earth is illuminated at any one
geometry.
time, and the distance
First of all,
between...
you're
Look, the distance between the edge of the Earth
It
and the
does
sun
not
is
work.
going to be different than the sun and the middle of the Earth.
Yeah. How do you know where the edge of the Earth is?
Okay, well, I mean, you can take a drone up, and I guess we could just see where the edge of the Earth is, right?
That's illegal.
It's illegal to take a drone up?
To go towards past the 60th parallel, yes.
Okay, well...
That's not on you. It's illegal.
Lie.
Okay, I don't
It
even
is.
understand why it matters where the edge of the Earth is. It's just...
Because you just keep on saying half the Earth over and over, and you have no idea what the entirety of the Earth is, and I said that in the preface. In addition, no, the sun revolves over times, in circuit specific to the time of year, and it has an attenuation limit. It isn't even complicated. Light doesn't go forever in an atmosphere. It has atmospheric extinction limit called attenuation. So.
Okay, sure, but I mean, we can determine where, again, even if you're going to play this game where you just say, oh, I don't know where the edge of the Earth is, I don't know where certain things are, I'm not making any kind of accurate model for you to pick apart. We can know for sure that Australia is in a different time zone than US and Canada. I mean, you can do that for all of the, every country. So, I mean, again... we still have the same issue where half of the populated Earth, because you're saying I don't know, Earth could theoretically go on infinitely. Half of the populated Earth is illuminated at any one time, but the distance between the middle of the populated Earth to the sun is shorter than the distance of the edge of the populated Earth. So you have the same issue.
We don't know what the edge is, man. Why do you keep saying that?
I said edge of the populated Earth. So I'm...
Okay, well, the sun, how do we know the limitation of the circuit of the sun, though? Why, how do I know the sun may go further than we're allowed to go? We're not allowed to go past the 60th parallel. I didn't make that rule. That's just a real thing. It's called
Does not matter.
Go past the 60th parallel.
The
Being subject to monitored and
There is no geometric form that would even allow this bullshit. It's just not possible that half of the population is illuminated at once. It's not possible, no matter what kind of light source you use.
Well, that's fine.
It just isn't
look, that's
possible.
fine. It doesn't even matter. Again, you still have the same issue where even if you're going to make this claim that well, what is it, solar attenuation or something, or atmospheric attenuation, where light can't travel infinitely in an atmosphere. Still, if we're talking about the populated portions of Earth, where, I mean, you can have a Skype call with someone in Australia or Japan, like the opposite side of the Earth, at this time, it's like 9, it would be morning for them. Like, look, you can use this sort of thing to just easily determine where the sun is hitting on the Earth, but like, again, the center point of the middle of the populated portion of Earth, it's closer to the sun than the end point or the edge of the populated Earth. So if you're going to use this, atmospheric attenuation thing, well, then the atmosphere stops light at different portions, and it just seems completely arbitrary. It just doesn't make any sense.
No,
like,
man.
this is just an excuse that doesn't pan out.
You haven't even researched flat Earth. Why would you come to a flat Earth?
No, I've actually done a fair bit of research on flat Earth, and I'm well aware of this argument, and it just doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna use this atmospheric attenuation argument, well then, like, there's arbitrary points in which light can still travel and light can't travel, and it just sounds like complete nonsense.
Well, no. What's nonsense is that you're just saying fake sentiments, and you're not even, offering substantive specificity as to what exactly your argument is. But regardless, the sun moves a certain way over time. Plus, our day and night cycle and season cycles are relative to that. We don't know the entirety of it, and there's something called attenuation. Are you suggesting that light goes forever in the atmosphere? Because it's scientifically known that isn't the case. So it has an extinction limit relative to...
Oh, come on, just shut up. You're already sounding like so dumb.
Literally that simple. And again, what's so funny? Can we prove the globe Earth, please? Because there should be thousands of proofs that the Earth's a globe. It's 2020, so can we just...
Okay, sure. Take a flight in a U-2 or an SR-71 Blackbird at around 70,000 feet. It's not even the max altitude of those aircrafts, and you can very easily see a curvature of the Earth.
Okay.
You don't even need to go into a spaceship or go on the space station or anything. Just go into a high-altitude plane.
It's patently false. So, yeah, U-2s go about 70,000 feet or so. Do you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
Yeah.
He says, okay, Felix Baumgartner, the Red Bull jump. He jumped from 128,000 feet. And he shows a huge curvature. And he said that he saw the curvature. So then we sent private weather balloons up, high altitude weather balloons up 120,000 feet, and we saw a flat horizon that rose to eye level. So showing that footage wasn't real. Well, then Neil deGrasse Tyson came out and he said, no, you would never see curvature from where Felix Baumgartner jumped at 128,000 feet. From there, you would be 2 millimeters off this beach ball, and that stuff would be freaking flat. So even the top proponent of the globe religion says that you would never see curvature from 120,000 feet, so 70,000 feet is 50,000 less than that. We've sent high altitude footage up there, you don't see curvature. So it's just a common misconception. People presuppose these things, but they don't look into it. If I can't see curvature from 128,000 feet, according to one of the top leading astrophysicists of your model, then how could I see it at almost half that distance?
Okay, wait. You said you sent up a weather balloon with a camera?
High altitude weather balloons that go about 120,000 feet.
Okay, so did you actually verify the altitude?
Yeah, it has a meter that knows the altitude. This has been done by a lot of people. So are you saying...
Can you show me the footage?
I didn't do it.
Okay, well, can you link me a video where they did where they used footage of 120,000 feet in the air and they looked at to see whether or not the Earth had a curvature?
Yeah, sure. Can someone link one of the dozens of videos this guy did in research into the chat for me, please?
No, look, I've seen this sort of thing. I've seen plenty.
Just ignored my whole point. A top astrophysicist
offhand item that's always visible
from 128,000 feet.
Wow.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah.
Okay, where's the quote of him saying that?
Okay, I guess I'll find that video too. And when you think I'm making this up on a live debate, bro? It's a video of him saying it on stage.
Okay. The thing is, I mean, there's video footage of people going up into SR-71s, U-2s. They go around 70,000 feet, and they claim they can see a curvature. There's also video where you can see the curvature. There's also other weather balloon experiments where you can see the curvature. They use
All
high
about the
altitude
lens,
weather
man.
balloons.
You do know,
Sorry?
certain lenses can impose a curvature on the horizon, right?
Okay, well, not to that extent. Like you
That's
can,
what Neil
like I know
deGrasse-
what barrel distortion. Like, dude, I know what barrel distortion is. I've done photography for a long time. You can't just get away with using like a fisheye lens and not having anyone notice. You're gonna have a certain amount of barrel distortion with any kind of lens, unless it's a really highly telescopic lens. But I mean, a wide-angle zoom of like even 14 millimeters on a full frame, it's not going to distort the image to the extent where you could see a huge curvature
Yeah, we
when
never
something
do.
should be just flat. And
Yep.
again, that sort of distortion would be visible throughout the entire image. It wouldn't just be only the earth, but not the people and all of the other things in the foreground. And on top of that, as the camera moves, you would see the distortion change. So you would reach a point where the earth would be flat, or it would have like a weird kind of dip in it. So no, this doesn't make any sense. If you're going to make this like barrel distortion claim, well, okay, if they're using a lens that would distort the image, then if they tilted downwards so the horizon line is below the center point of the frame, then you'd see the curvature go this way. And if you tilt up, you'd see it curve this way. You don't see that in any of the footage.
Actually, I've seen tons of footage that Globe Earthers present. That's exactly what happens because of the lack of stability of the weather balloon. The horizon goes convex and concave over and over. So, I just don't think you look, dude. There are dozens
One second.
of footage where we see a flat horizon.
Yes, we know you've seen the dark cam
One second.
footage.
I
You
want to
fucking
just quick
idiot.
ask. Forgive me,
Oh my
Witsit. I'm so sorry for interrupting, bud. If you happen to have headphones, I just realized there is a little bit of feedback. If you don't, it's not a big deal. We can keep going and people can still understand you, but there's a little bit of feedback just in case you have headphones handy. And also want to remind you folks, both Witsit Gets It and Vegan Gains, I have put their links in the description for you folks. So that way if you're listening and you're like, I like that, you can hear plenty more where that came from. So appreciate that. And thanks so much for your questions. And yes, someone asked as well regarding the lights. So basically the reason that my studio sometimes lights up is we tried a new app called Lumia where basically green is like a new subscriber and we say welcome, thanks so much for being here with us, and then red is when a super chat happens, the studio flashes red. And with that, pardon my interruption with It Gets It, so sorry about that, but just wanted to, we've got, well, some audio divas out in the, out there, say, hey, we're getting feedback. So anyway, thanks for that.
Yeah, I think these should work. Come up. All right.
Thanks so
Is
much.
that better?
Okay,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Well, now I can still hear you.
Thanks so much. It's clear.
Okay.
Okay, you mentioned